Welcome to Extra Credits by Cover Your Assets. This is a real high level overview of the ways in which you can lower your costs of insurance and understand some of the factors that are driving your insurance rates. So, first off, let's go ahead and figure out some ways to save money. So, when it comes to building your home, the materials matter. So, I'm sure everyone has heard of the child story of the Three Little Pigs. Well, the insurance companies really took that to heart and really crafted the majority of their underwriting based off of that. So, for those of you who haven't heard, Three Little Pigs, they each build a home made out of different materials. One has straw, one has wood, the other one has brick, right? The wolf, big bad wolf comes through and tries to blow the house down with the straw. The straw house gets destroyed. Same thing with the wood house. But when he comes to the brick house, there's nothing that he could do, and the pigs are safe. So that's the same thing that you have to think about when it comes to your home. So the insurance companies really reward you for having different materials to protect your home. For instance, if you have a home that is constructed based out of 2x4s, what we would call a frame home, you actually pay a 6% upcharge, or in this case, you're looking at the factor of 1.06, meaning that instead of the original factor of 1, you're actually paying a little bit more because the chances of this home being impacted by any kind of high winds or in the event of a fire, it'll likely burn down faster, or it'll be taken off with the wind. So you're paying a little bit more premium on that. As you move towards the more structurally sound and stronger materials, you'll notice that the insurance carriers reward you for that. So in this event, we have brick at 0.81 factor, which all these factors really just let you know what the total impact is going to be to your premium. So if you look on that right-handed column, you'll see premium impact. And I think the best way to describe it is just to look at the bottom line, right? So wood frame, you're looking at $1,060 for insuring this property, all else being equal. When it comes to brick, you're looking at $810 a year. And then when you get down to cement or other fire-resistant materials like glass and steel, you may be even lower. In this case, it'd be around $570 per year. And that's assuming everything is the same except for the building materials. So as you have stronger materials, the insurance companies reward you. The next thing, I threw this in here. Some things get better with age, others don't, right? And the home is usually not one of those things that gets better with age. Obviously, you have the normal wear and tear of everyday life, more exposure to storms, things of that nature. So a lot of carriers will reward you for having a newer home or have renovated a home recently. And so those are some of the things you definitely want to take into consideration. Some other factors to explore would be things like in this upper left-hand area with this cabin home, things like the roofing materials. So you have in this case, you have a metal roof, you have what appears to be some slate. So those are some things that you would want to consider, along with on the right-hand side, you have two distinct different types of homes. The more modern home would have a flat roof, and that would impact your premiums, as well as the shape of the picture below having what we would call a hip roof. Now, when it comes to the shape of the roof, that matters too. Shock. If you were to say, okay, let's put one of these homes in a very windy area, so maybe it's in South Florida, which I don't know why you'd have a cabin in South Florida, but hey, who am I to judge? The house in the top left, the cabin looking home, has multiple kinds of roofing types all in one. So we would consider that a composition. But in this case, you have a gable roof, which is that peak type, And let's just say you had a really, really strong gust of wind hit the house at just the right angle. There's a possibility that that roof would be taken off because of the gable shape. So those are the things that would make this a really challenging home to have in Florida or in a wind-prone area, maybe even tornado areas. The bottom right-hand corner one that we have a hip roof, and this is probably one of the safest roofs when it comes to wind exposure because there's less surface area for wind to get under the home and lift it up because you only have the eaves, which is what's connecting to the house. So that's probably one of the safer bets. And then at the top right, you have a flat roof, which these can be hit or miss. The challenges with flat roofs are that there's not a good way for the water to disperse throughout the whole system. So if you have a leak, the water could potentially just sit there and then kind of continue to fall in. So that's one of the challenges with flat roofs. But other factors to consider in this case would be more of the natural disaster components. So tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfire risk, and even flood. So those are some of the major factors that are going to drive your insurance premiums that you're going to want to know when you're purchasing a home. Now, what I'm about to show you here is probably one of the biggest things that could get me in trouble in this industry. And the reason why is many brokers do not want you to realize how increasing your deductibles will lower your premiums. Now, it makes sense when you think about it because the more risk you're taking on as the insured by having a higher deductible, the less risk that the insurance companies are taking on because a lot of the claims could be very small things like, a minor leak in your roof or you have a little bit of water damage from a leaky faucet. These are the things that most insurance carriers are taking into account. And so when you have higher deductibles, they realize you're going to take the hit on the first, in this case, of 25,000, and you're not going to be putting in claims for that. So what my team calls a catastrophic loss or like a major loss would be really anything that exceeds that $25,000 mark. If you have a flooded basement, if you have a water sprinkler that a pipe bursts and it floods a portion of your home and you need to have that repaired, that's going to be well in excess of 25,000. So those are like the major things that we look to insure. But as you're looking at this, I want you to just hone in on that 0% premium impact and $10,000 mark here where it says no premium impact. So this is like your base case, right? So a lot of insurance agents and brokers typically do not recommend having higher deductibles. And the reason why is that they get paid commission based off of those premium dollars. So if you have a higher premium, guess what? They're getting more commission. So a lot of times these brokers and agents don't encourage you to have higher deductibles, even though it makes financial sense for you to not pay out so much in insurance premiums and actually save that money, potentially invest it, and put it to better use than with the insurance companies. So that's kind of at a high level. As you can see here, when you look at the reduction in premium all the way on that bottom right-hand side, by increasing your deductible from $10,000 to $25,000, you're removing $1,800 per year with this assumption of $1 million home, and you're getting that money back. You're not paying it out in insurance. Now, when you multiply that times the value of your home, let's say if you have a $10 million home, all of a sudden now you're saving a significant chunk of change, 18 grand a year potentially, in the event that you are able to increase your deductible. So by going up to 25, you have a payback period in less than a year and a half. Like that's a no-brainer, right? And unless you're having a bunch of claims every year or once a year for that matter, you're going to save a ton of money over the course of 5-10 years on your insurance portfolio by doing this. And this is what we advise all of our clients as it fits their financial situation. But if you have a multi-million-dollar home, there's no reason you have a $10,000 deductible unless, based on your financial cash flow, you're not able to float that $10,000 deductible and savings as well. And yeah, if you have a multi-million dollar home and can't do that, I don't know if you should have a multi-million dollar home. Okay, so next we're getting into the domains of peril. So you probably heard of these elements before, but they're fire, wind, lightning, earth, water, ice, and then what I throw in there for security. So when it comes to fire, there's a couple of credits that are available that the insurance carriers offer, and it really makes a lot of sense when you're taking a look at it. So in this case, for a residential sprinkler system, you're looking at a 10% credit, which that adds up to be a lot of money when you think about if you have a $20,000, a $40,000, $50,000 insurance bill. Sorry. When it comes to the next credit, having a central burglar and fire alarm is another really powerful credit. This allows you to monitor, your home for any burglary activity or fire, so that the fire department or police department can come and save the loss of contents, the loss of the building, etc. Another one that not many people use or have applied to their account, but likely have, are these gas leak detection alarms. I mean, if you have one of those carbon monoxide alarm systems, throughout your house like we do, you want to make sure that your insurance broker has this information. The next peril domain that we're going to jump into is wind. So having impact shutters gives you a ton of money when it comes to credits. So if you have a lot of wind exposure, having these things, while they may be an initial investment, they can add up to significant savings. Next is the impact glass credit. One thing to note is that you're not going to be able to get both of these. So if you have impact shutters and impact glass, you're only going to get the credit for having one of them. But that's another 10%. Lightning is the next peril. And if you have installed one of these lightning protection systems, you can get a 2% credit. Now, I know it depends based on the area you're located and what the contractors are going for as far as labor and the materials for these systems. But if you're in a lightning prone area near a coast, it might be something to look into. Next is the permanent backup generator. These things are great. Having a 5% credit helps subsidize the cost of these as well, because they can be expensive. Next peril domain is the earth movement. So when you have an earthquake, many people don't really think about all of the gas lines that are attached to your home, right? So if you think about the gas line being like this connected, what happens when the earth starts to shake and the house separates from where the pipe is? Well, now you have gas being pushed out. And if there's a small fire that starts in your home, you could have a massive gas explosion. So having one of these seismic gas shutoff valves helps prevent these major explosions and fires from happening in the event of an earthquake. Next peril domain is water. We all probably know about this one. So having an automatic water shutoff device is really, really powerful when it comes to protecting your home. So let's say, for instance, you were to head out of town. It's around wintertime in Texas. Believe it or not, it's really hot during the summer, but it does freeze at times. And in the event that a water pipe breaks, with these systems, it'll detect whether there's a constant drip or a flow in your system and shut it off intelligently. Now, you run into situations where that happens without your wanting it to happen, like if you're in the shower and you're taking a long one or something like that. But what these systems do is it allows you to prevent a major loss from happening. I have a friend of mine, just a neighbor right down the street, who went on vacation for Christmas, and the water line to his fridge had expanded and burst, and they were gone for a week. Their entire first floor had about an inch of water, and they had to do a complete gut job of the entire home. They had to move into another temporary housing for about 4 or 5 months, and it's just a pain in the butt. So having one of these systems is great, and insurance companies can help subsidize the cost. You can also throw these water sensor alarms in. So I recommend putting these behind the toilets or underneath the vanities in bathrooms, because it can help identify if there's a water leak in those areas, as well as near your hot water tank and hot water heater, because in the event that one of those overflow or they bust, it's nice to be able to have these systems to alert you so that you can protect the home instead of having a whole loss. The next peril is ice. It's pretty cold. I'm just kidding. So when it comes to ice, there are these low temperature monitoring devices that you can install throughout your home, and they're these little sensors that they just monitor the temperature. And when it gets below a certain degree, it'll alert you. And so, in the event, for instance, we just gave the example of Texas in the winter. Let's say I accidentally left the window open, which I wouldn't, but anyway, don't tell my insurance company. So I left the window open on accident, and we were out of town. It was a freeze, and my bedroom, sensor picked up the temperature difference. It would alert me saying, I could send a text to my phone saying, hey, there's a low temperature alarm going off in this bedroom. Go check it out. And that would alert me to say, hey, call the neighbor and have them go over and shut my window. But anyway, that being the case, these things come in handy, especially when it comes to security. We're going to talk about a few things. So the gated community credit's great. So 5% credit for this one. And what it does is if you're living inside of a gated community, the insurance carriers know that, hey, the chances of somebody being able to come in and steal all of your belongings unnoticed is going to be lesser. Not that it's impossible, but it's going to have a lesser chance of happening than in an area that doesn't have a gated community. One step further in the protection of your property is the perimeter gate credit. So you could live in a gated community, and then your property could have a perimeter gate around it. If it has that, you get rewarded as well, 5%. This I piggybacked off of when it came to the central fire alarm, but this is just a really good one to have. A lot of our carriers just flat out require it. But having a burglar alarm system monitoring your stuff is great. And then one more thing is the external perimeter protection. So this is great if you have external cameras that are monitoring your property, if you have motion sensor detection, where you can pick up different animals that are driving by or walking by, humans, animals that are walking by, whatever it may be, things that'll drive your dog nuts. This is a great system to have. It helps just keep an eye on everything, make sure everything's protected, especially for when you're out of town. It's just to give a recap of some of the discounts and credits available. You got all these different domains, right? So from the fire domain, you got the residential sprinkler to put out any fire that happens on the property. That can be both internal and external. Central fire and burglar, like I talked about, and then gas leak detection. You have all these other ones. I'm not going to explain them, but definitely things you want to make sure that if you don't have them, consider adding them, because you may be able to get it paid for in a year, and then you're going to have all that credit that is reducing your insurance premiums in year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and so on. And then the other thing is that if you do have them, make sure your broker knows. A lot of times brokers aren't actually on site, so they're trusting that their customers are giving them all of the information applicable to the account, to the property. And I've seen it firsthand. That's just usually not the case. I put together a quick little checklist for all my clients to make sure if they have these things, they could just say yes, no, yes, no. But really take a look at these items and make sure your insurance representative has the information they need to give you the best rate. And with that is it. If you enjoyed this, I know that it's rough, but I love it. It's real. Check out my podcast, Cover Your Assets. I have on professionals that advise ultra affluent individuals and families on ways in which they can protect their business, protect their family, protect their income, protect their wealth, and then also to protect their legacy. So I hope that you enjoyed it. And if so, let me know, reach out. You can send me an email, dom@axg-advisors.com, or you can just add me on LinkedIn. See you later.